Child Labour by Mia and Sarina. Introduction. Child labour is work that harms children or keeps them from attending school. Today, close to 250 million children are working in the world. More than 150 million of these children are working in dangerous conditions. Each year, more than 1 million of these children are involved in illegal trade or deal. We chose this topic to inquire on because we are both very passionate about stopping child labour, and we think that child labour is a big problem in the world. Every child in the world must have an education. Child work versus child labour. Child work. If children are above the minimum age to work, they are employed for a limited number of hours in safe conditions, are paid fairly, and the work does not impact on their mental, physical, or social development. Working may be useful to both themselves and their families. Child labour. Children work an unspecified number of hours, work that is mentally, physically, or socially dangerous and harmful to children, and work that interferes with their education. Health and well-being. When we're sick, we visit a doctor. We have access to affordable medicines, clean drinking water is available to us at the turn of a tap, and nutritious food. In fact, we probably can't imagine what it would be like to go without these things. Child labour can have huge effects on the health and well-being of children. Millions of children often have to work long hours in horrible conditions. If children are injured at work, they often receive some medical treatment. They can also suffer long-term health problems due to malnutrition, exposure to chemicals, abuse, and exhaustion. This picture represents the medicine that we can access 24/7. Is child labour better than living in poverty? It depends on the family's situation. If we are really poor, then child labour would be a good thing for that family because with the money they can live. If a family wasn't that poor and they could afford food, water, and their house, then child labour would be an option to get more money. But on the other hand, they don't need it as much as the other families. This picture represents child labour that children have to do a lot of during their day. How consumer choices make a difference. Our choices make a difference because as consumers, our choices affect the market and products that are on stock. It's like a vote for the new Prime Minister. Every vote counts. Even one vote can divide the whole nation. It's also like that with consumers. A consumer choice can put the whole company out of business. This picture represents the voting box that could divide the whole nation in half with its final decision. Also, it represents how we're voting for child labour by buying those products. The bad side of child labour. Why do people still do it illegally? They do it illegally because more children to work for that product, more of that product, more money for the company and the workers, as it's the cheapest form of labour. Why are children used as workers so much? They are used for their ability to work and their energy that lasts a long time. This picture represents the bad side of child labour and how it affects the children's feelings. Going once, going twice, going 3 times, sold. And that is the sound of a child being sold. Shoes. Many types of shoes are made in sweatshops. However, the biggest problem is found with sneakers and athletic shoes. Most athletic shoes are made in sweatshops in Asian countries. Child labour is very common in the shoe industry. Clothing. Clothing is very often made in sweatshops and with the use of child labour. In the US, the majority of clothing workers are women that work 60 to 80 hours a week, usually without minimum wage or overtime pay. Overseas, clothing workers are making less than a living wage working under extremely horrible conditions. What countries use child labour? Ethiopia. Nearly 60% of Ethiopian children are put to work, earning about $1 a month. Burundi. Almost a quarter of all children aged 4 to 15 are said to be involved in child labour, including slavery, in the small East African nation of Burundi. Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, where children make up half the population, more than 30% of primary school-aged children go to work in cement, textile, food processing industries, or in the poppy fields. Sudan. In the war-torn nation of Sudan, in North Africa, children are commonly recruited as child soldiers or to be used for forced labour on farms. Do children still get an education? Children who work and do not go to school will end up in low-paid jobs later, and so will their children. Girls in particular do not go to school. Many people still believe that girls should be housewives. Parents are less willing to pay money for their daughters if they feel that education is pointless for girls. When girls do go to school, it is often for a short period only. If their parents become ill, they are usually the first to stay at home to take care of them. Why does the industry use child labor? They put a big impact on children because adults think children are very gullible. They have nimble fingers and a lot of energy that helps them to make a lot of products. How to stop child labor. It is no coincidence that the countries where child labor is worst are those that spend least on primary education. Primary education should be free, compulsory, well-resourced, and nearby. It is much easier to monitor school attendance than to monitor factories and workshops. Sponsoring a child doesn't solve this problem. It might make us feel good, but it only helps educate one child, isolating them from the others in their community. This picture represents primary education that children should be getting before getting older. Conclusion. In conclusion, our opinion is that child labor should never be done in any country and that as consumers, our choices do affect the market to put back on child labor. The minimum wage that the workers get paid should be acceptable and that the workers can buy what they need to live their life well and healthy. We get all that we want and need in the click of a finger. We can learn and do what we want whenever we want. On the other hand, we don't even take a minute of our day to think about children who don't get even nearly as much as we do. Let children be free, not captured. Save children's lives. Give them an education. Stop child labor. This picture represents the call to action we use to drag people in and feel for child labor. Bibliography. This was our bibliography that we used to find the information and photos for our sites in our presentation. Graph. This graph represents the amount of children that work all around the world. In Africa, North America, South America, Asia, and none in Australia. The end. P.S. Hope you enjoyed it. By Mia and Sarina.